Hello and welcome back to Miranda's Cauldron. Will not be a sprint break, but I will be doing a lot of the same kind of things I do during sprints, like tarot cards and stuff like that. But for a change, I have a guest, ADRIAN. He's going to help me with the chat with the break. So I'll add him. There we go. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So do you want to do your intro?
I would love to. That'd be great. Thank you. For anyone who doesn't know me, although I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces in the chat, I am ADRIAN Santiago. I am a sci-fi fantasy author. I wrote the Mythic series as viewable here. Anyway, it's sci-fi fantasy for adults. That's how I like to pitch it. If you're an adult and you like sci-fi fantasy, please pick up my book. It is available wide. The series is called Mythic. I'm working on book 2 right now. And if you would like a little introduction into the series, you can go to my website, booksbyadrian.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get this, the Death and Rebirth of Bella Erdman. This is the prologue short story that leads into the book. If you read this for free on the newsletter and you decide you like it, pick up a copy of the novel. I'm sure that you'll like it even more. Thank you guys so much for having me. Oh, and I have a very cool witchy character in that novel, and she does appear in the prologue. And based on current company, I feel like that was worth mentioning. And there's a little witchy character in my novel, and she's awesome.
Definitely. I'm Miranda. I am not published yet, but it's hopefully on one of my goals for this year. I write young adult urban fantasy with witches and family secrets. We decided that we're both going to be reading a part of our book, so that will be fun. But in the meantime, let's jump into comments to see who's here. We have Rachel and Inka. Hello, CJ. And thanks for the reminder about hugging the like button and subscribing. Thank you so much. And Mama Maggie. Comment from Adrian. Hello. Here we have some links. Check out Inka's pre-sale. The cover's gorgeous. Yes, I agree. Inka's books are very good. I've read a few of them. I need to get some more. Mama Maggie has added a couple of game links. S.A. Crow, hello. And just as a little personal thing, years ago, guess it was maybe it was, oh my goodness, years ago, I got a free mentorship, I guess, with S.A. Crow over on her Discord channel. And she helped me with my Witches of Solace books. So that has been fun, which is now being read by Critique Partners. Hello, Sam. Thank you so much, Sam, for organizing this and bringing us all together. And
what an incredible job Sam did.
I'm going to butcher this name.
I had trouble with that one too.
Cageheim?
I'm going to go with
I'm really bad with words.
Cageheim. I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure.
And thanks for the reminder about liking and checking out the links. And I do have the playlist in the description below, as well as my links for my co-hosts. Hello, Jess. Okay, that is it for the chat. I'm going to add some banners.
Caghime is the pronunciation, according to Maggie. Caghime. I'll get it. I'm working on it. I'll get there.
Oh, and hello, Jody Jean. I sprint with her on Monday and Wednesday. No, Monday. Wait, what day does she sprint now? Monday evenings and Thursday evenings. I'm also a member of the Heart Breathings writing community with Sarah Cannon. So, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to host my own streams, because I've been streaming with other people that I thought, hey, if they can do it, so can I.
Indeed.
So if anyone wants to answer the question that I posted up in the banner, what's your favorite genre to write, and what about to read?
Interesting.
So when
All right,
people
I'll
are
go first.
doing that.
I'll go first. So I love to read fantasy novels. They're by far my favorite is big fantasy novels. I like sci-fi in like TV and movies. I read less sci-fi than I watch. I read more fantasy than I watch. It's just, but those are my two big ones. It's sci-fi and fantasy, and so therefore that's why I write sci-fi fantasy. I like genre benders like this though, where it's not just any one thing. For example, this world is a sci-fi fantasy world, but the plot in this first book is kind of a mystery thriller serial killer thing going on, right? So there's a lot of like different flavors in there, and that's really what I like. People will point to something like a Game of Thrones and how fantasy it is, but they forget that the first season, or the first book rather, is a murder mystery. Who killed John Aaron? And so that's kind of how I like to approach my sci-fi and my fantasy. I like the sci-fi fantasy to be more about the world and the backdrop, whereas the plot is something else. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'm going to read a couple of comments. Okay, I think this one. No, we're going to start here. Jody Jean says, I love writing mystery, but love to read fantasy. Rachel, fantasy of any kind is my fave on both parts. I say Crow, to write romance, suspense, and to read epic fantasy. Oh, to be able to write an epic fantasy like Lord of the Rings or the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind. I'm reading that series now, and it's a long read, but oh my goodness, the world building, the characters is just amazing. Mama Maggie, everything except horror. Yeah, I got to agree with you there. I have read a few Stephen King books when I was younger. It was just a little bit too gruesome for me. But I also enjoyed reading John Saul and Dean Koontz, which is kind of scary, but more suspense. Mama Maggie, I'm a genre masher and love reading genre mashing. I guess that means a little bit of everything.
Indeed.
CJ, I've been loving cozy reads. Oh, skipped. I love queer fantasy the best, whether it's urban fantasy or historical or mystery. That's what I write. QMC's Kicking Paranormal Butt. Adrian says, my series include LGBTQ main characters in a polyamorous
Polyamorous.
That means more than one
Correct.
partner? Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
I
So
tend to...
in the case of my book, it's these three. Spoiler, they get it on.
I tend to not write spice. There's romance, very subtle, like my characters near the end of book one, they may have kissed. The one series, which is a soulless, the one couple, they don't kiss until near halfway through the second book, and it's like totally surprised, like, oh my goodness, you just rescued me kind of kiss. So, but they hold hands and lean into each other. And when I'm reading books
Sounds
like
cozy.
with that, I just skip the spicy stuff.
That's okay. Yeah.
But it has to have a good plot, and a lot of the time I do, like it does have one. I just skip the spicy stuff.
I include the spicy stuff because for me it feels more natural to include it. I you know I've found a lot of authors saying the same thing, which is it's a major part of decision making scenarios for humans, and therefore it should be for characters as well. And that's in my writing, and that nobody else has to do that. It's to each their own. But I like to include it. And the reason I think that I became comfortable with including it was that I read once a spicy scene in one of the A Song of Ice and Fire books, the Game of Thrones books. Um, there's a character on there, a female character, who's the captain of a pirate ship. And so she's leading a bunch of men, very strong, crazy men, right? And she's a woman. So she has to be even stronger and crazier than them. She has to portray this, like, power to keep them in line. But she's a woman, and women, they sometimes they just want to be held by a dude. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is she goes into her cabin, and what we think as the reader is that she's being attacked by a man, and you freak out for her because she's alone and she's being attacked. And then you realize she's not being attacked, she's participating, and you realize, oh, this is her boyfriend, and this is how they do it, because it's the only place where she can be vulnerable. It's the only place where she can give up control to someone else in private with her man, because out there she has to be the tough one. And it was this crystallizing moment where a sex scene told me something I didn't know about the character. And I'm like, that's what it's supposed to do. That's why they should be there. It should have a purpose. And so I try to have a purpose to said spicy scenes. But sometimes, man, those characters, they just like each other.
Exactly. And there's one I can remember years ago, I was taking an evening course for creative writing, and we had to read each other's stories. And I was warned on the one story, and I couldn't read it. It was erotica. I'm like, nope, I am not reading this. Nope, not going to happen. So I just wrote in my little comments. It's like, sorry, I don't read this kind of stuff, and I'm not going to.
And that's fair. And I don't read erotica either. Like when it's like when that's the whole
there's going to be a purpose
like,
for it.
Yeah.
Like I know there's a few spicy scenes. Like I was told this one author, I actually write with her over on the Heart Breathings community. I was told she writes vampire smut. Well, I'm like, okay, I've read those kind of books before. I just skip over those scenes. Well, I was reading one of her books. I'm like, this is really good. And I actually read all the spicy stuff, and it was relevant to the story. So I was proud of myself, and I told her that. Sam, writing fantasy romantasy or fantasy romance in erotic leaning stuff. Read a little bit of everything, just as long as there's a snarky character and a great world building, I'm assuming.
For those of you who need to know, in this 150,000 word book, there's 3 spicy scenes that I can think of. 3. So it's not like
that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not like it's an erotica book, but it happens.
Okay, Stephanie, reading a little bit of everything, although not a huge historical romance reader. And Rachel, again, with the multiple partners. And S.A. Crow. My spice stuff is spicy.
Sarah said it best in there that spicy scenes in books, just like spice in food, it's not for everybody. And she's right.
That is so true.
If you like the spice, get it.
So it seems like the general is fantasy, which is what I expected.
Yeah, it makes sense. That checks out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the highest selling genre, isn't it?
Well, yeah, between that and I understand romance is quite high too.
Romance is the highest. You're right. Romance is the highest selling one. Fantasy's got to be second. If I were a betting man.
Speaking of fantasy, I'm not going to post in a question. Well, I might once we start talking. But when you do, because I'm not really sure how to word this in text,
okay.
But about fantasy and world building, what kind of things do you start out with first? Is it the characters? Is it the actual plot? What your world looks like, or what?
In the case of my novel, um, I dare say that the reason it's such a genre bender is because that's how it came together. I tend to have a lot of ideas and just write them down to like store, even though I don't know what to do with them yet. So, for example, the sci-fi world of this like man-made moon giant space station thing that my book takes place on, I had the idea for that a long time ago, and I kind of set that aside. And then Faye, this character right here, has existed in my head rent free for like 20 years, and I kept trying to put her in different stories and she never quite fit. And then different things like that, ideas for little tech things, ideas for for magic, little things like that everywhere. And then one day I had I don't know how everybody feels about this kind of stuff, but I'm a bit of a hippie, and I had a very transformative mushroom trip one day, and it was impactful, and the kind of thing that you analyze for like years. I still go back and analyze what I learned from that trip, and grow from it. And so I wanted to share it with the world, but I don't like writing about myself. I like writing fiction. So I gave that experience to a different character, that character being Bella. And so I start writing this short story, and she is riding around with her cousin, Mitch, and he's taking her somewhere that she doesn't know where she's going. And when they get there and they open the door, guess who's there? She answers the door, and I was like, oh, there she is. That's where she's belonged all this time. And the short story just kind of, it just came out of me. And before it was done, I knew, oh, this is a novel. And so I just kept going, and like halfway through the novel, I'm like, oh, this is a trilogy. And then like by the time I was done with the novel, I'm like, okay, this is actually 5 books. I have 5 books. So anyway, it all kind of came together organically that way. So in this particular case, I didn't necessarily start anywhere. Like I had some world building stuff, some magic stuff, some plot stuff, some character stuff. And once something happened that they all kind of tied together, I was, oh, there it is. And so that's kind of how this one came together. In my second book, the one that I'm working on right now, world building has been a thing, because I've had to come up with different kingdoms, and I'm developing the magic system and giving the world histories for them to discover, because it's a whole thing. So world building has been a big deal in this second book, for sure. For sure.
I personally always start with a map of either the town I'm in, the camp. There's one book that's surrounded in like the main setting is a camp for elementals. Think X-Men kind of thing. That's what it's been compared to. And then, so I have my hand-drawn map of my town, all my buildings, the school, what have you. And then on the map, I just handwrite different things I want to remember of the building or what have you. And then I just start with character names and then just a quick outline. But a lot of notes of the magic that's happening. And a lot of it is just I learn as I go along.
Yeah, that's me too. I'm learning as I go along too. A lot of times I have to stop what I'm doing and research how it's properly done, and then go back and do it again. And yeah, we learn as we go. I wanted to take one quick moment because Emmy North expressed that she's probably going to be lurking soon, but she did ask me a question, so I'm going to answer it while I can. You asked Emmy if I had a cover artist. Because this is a free download from my website, the ebook is, this image was done with AI art. I don't sell that particular story. I give that away for free. If you buy the printed version, the only reason I charge is because it also has sample chapters from the novel. But otherwise, this is just AI art, and probably the last time that I will use AI art on a cover. This is a real cover done by a real professional artist, as is all of this. She knocked it out of the park. I am going to put her link in the chat in a minute here, so you guys can go to her website. Very fairly priced, very fast at what she does, very good at what she does, and she has a very versatile style. When you go through her catalog and look at all the covers that she's done, there's lots of different styles in there, and you can find the one that best goes with what you're looking for and be like, hey, I like the style that you did in this cover. If you could use that style to create this image that I'm describing to you, she's going to knock it out, no problem. So highly recommended to go check her out. I'm going to put her link in the chat right now.
Awesome. I was lucky enough when it came to my cover for Lear, was my daughter-in-law took a marketing class in university, well, college up here. And so she just did it through Canva when we were chatting. So it was pretty good. Inca, my first book was character driven, but once that was written and the story world established, all the books after that have had the core, have had the lore come first, and I add to the lore with each new release. Pretty good. Okay. So since there's a little lull in the conversation, I am going to draw a Witch's Familiar runic oracle. If anyone's familiar with, he doesn't have a wrench. Okay. And I can't do that when I'm here.
Oh, that's okay. Maggie has a wrench. Maggie, can you just copy what I wrote and just throw it in there for them? And they'll be able to click on it after that. Thank you, Maggie. You're the best.
So I'm shuffling my oracle deck with my runic animals. This is the back of them. And one got flipped around. And I apologize again with the pronunciation, but here it is. If you can see, it looks
That's
like
beautiful.
This rune is like an M, and it's with the horse, which is very fitting because this rune is called Ewas, as I would pronounce it, and the meaning is a horse. And let's see what the booklet has to say on top of that. So horse is with movement. And you can use these cards pretty much the same idea as you do with runes. I mean, with tarot, you can do them daily. You can do regular spreads, like 3 card spreads or whatever. Funny story, I have made my own runes with stones. My daughter, she was 2. She was about 2.5 when her brother started kindergarten. We were playing in the playground, and she gathered up her own little stones to make her own runes. And she'd be sitting in her bedroom playing with her runes and her stuffies.
Stuffies. Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't scrolled through the artist's catalog since commissioning her. It's pretty cool to see, first of all, my cover in her in her portfolio. That's pretty cool. But it's already grown by it's like doubled in size, this catalog. There are so many new covers in here.
Then you pick one that she's already done. She doesn't make one for you.
Oh no, she does have pre-mades, absolutely, but no, you don't have to. I went to 5 other cover artists before her with my idea for this cover. This exact image was in my brain and I wanted it. And every cover designer was telling me, oh, it's too busy, it's too cluttered, it's not gonna look good. You should simplify it and do it. Blah, blah, blah. And I just I don't want any like negativity, man. Like, do what I'm paying you for. So I told her the idea and she was like, no problem. And I was like, I like this cover that you did for this other artist. I like that for this other author. I like that style. Can you use that style when you design this idea of mine? No problem. And she did it and we tweaked it together. I asked her to, add the blood on the killer's jacket to suggest that he's guilty. So like, oh, okay, that's the killer. I, gave her the little drone camera because that's in the pages of the book. It wasn't in my initial pitch, but I was like, you know what? That's missing. And boom, there it is. She even used my brand's colors by request in this. So these golds, that's my brand gold. The reds are my brand red. The teal is my brand's teal. Like it fits so perfectly with what it is. It's like, It's awesome. Beautiful.
Interesting.
I'm very, very happy with her work. Outstanding. Outstanding.
And a couple of the keywords for this one is teamwork, trust, harmony, marriage, and loyalty. And this is the full moon. If you would like to have a tarot card drawn for you, write it in the comments, and I might do like 3. Okay, Ami says, my genres right now reach to darker gothic, fairy, fantasy, both in writing and reading at the moment. I usually read similar to my writing. I also use to span to middle grade, which is a popular choice. Oh, so you don't read young adult. It's the younger kids. Oh, nice. Also tend to be reaching more into character-driven stories, which used to be different. Same. And there's the link that Mama Maggie shared. And no worries about the leg.
Yeah, Maggie went above and beyond and shared my links as well. Thank you very much, Mama Maggie.
And then there's links for ADRIAN, which is great.
Outstanding.
Okay.
I hire her for my marketing team.
So before we went live, Adrian said wanted to go first for his. So yes, which please. Deck would you like? We've got the Gilded, we have the Mystical Cats, and the Witch's Tarot. Those are my 3 main.
Let's do the Witch's Tarot in honor of my wife and one of my main characters.
Okay, and I do have a banner about that. I'll just find it. And on my channel, I try to do a full moon tarot reading every month. I've been kind of slacking, but it is what it is. Okay, spread out the cards. And I just hope I don't get a king, queen, knight, or a page, because I don't like those.
Okay. Well, thing is it's for me, and it'll be okay.
Here we go. Here we have a king.
Hey, if I'm a king, I'm a king. I don't know what it means.
King of Wands. Wands is normally for creativity, and the king has my interpretation is a strong male and a creative male. So I guess that card suits you being male and creative. So there we go.
Awesome.
That's
Love
fun.
it. You know, what's funny is that Maggie is requesting a specific page of my book to be read, and I immediately was like, what happens on that page? I'm looking for it. I'm like, why is she requesting this? Is that one of the spicy things? What are you doing?
Well, I think the way that my channel is set up, I have it for it's not okay for children.
Good.
So,
I still wouldn't read it. I still wouldn't read a spicy scene.
Okay.
that's for y'all to read in private of your own. I don't think that's what it is, though.
Okay, so do you want to look up page 117?
Yeah, I think I'm
and then when he's doing that, I'm also going to read a part of Lear.
Go for it.
I've had a few beta readers, and that's the one will be out later this year.
How do you spell Lear? Is it like the word Lear? Leer?
Leir.
That's interesting. One of my main characters, this guy, his name is Lear, spelled Lyr.
Wow. How I came up with that title is I do a translation with different languages. And I can't remember the language. I think it's like Swedish or Icelandic or something. And it was for camp. So that's where I came up with that. Because for book 1, the camp of elementals is introduced, and that's where my main character, Salem, moves to, gets rescued to. So for me, instead of doing page numbers, because I have each individual chapter in its own document, so I don't have like page 125. So we'll do chapter between chapters 1 and 18, and then I'll just pick something in that chapter.
Okay.
So let's hear the reading of
All right.
Adrian's book on page 117.
All right. So the preamble to this is Lear's point of view chapter. He has just completed a bounty hunter job for a crime boss who is very uncreative himself and calls himself the boss. Anybody who needs to call themselves the boss, by the way, is not the boss, but that's kind of the point. Anyway, so he has just turned in his bounty, and this is what happens next. The boss deposited funds onto his ghost card and swiped it over Lear's wristcom. The second half of the bounty was immediately available in Lear's account. Lear nodded, careful not to speak unless absolutely necessary. Guess that's it then, Varian. Until your services are needed again. The boss extended his hand for a shake. Lear hesitated, but he shook it. The pin pricked his palm, and Lear recoiled. Lear held his hand up and inspected it, finding a drop of blood smeared on his palm. Not again. I'm out of the business, actually. This was my last job, he tried to say plainly, but the room was growing blurry. You're damn right it was. You see, the boss removed a ring from his right hand and put it in his drawer. He then put a hand on Lear's shoulder. Our last agreement being fulfilled with this handshake leaves us with the next order of business. You've seen this video, and you cannot have seen this video. Lear yanked his shoulder away. You won't leave here alive, Varian. You seem to be overlooking one crucial detail, Lear said. His words were slurring, but Lear decided to feign confidence anyway. Oh, well, please enlighten me. The boss crossed his arms and leaned back against his desk. If I'd seen this video before, it means there's another copy. It's out there somewhere. You kill me, and you'll never find it. I know all about Detective Inspector Migdalia Imara Vandersea. Shit, middle name and everything, Lear thought. She'll be dealt with, don't worry. I know a guy. Betting it's the same guy that shot Paleo, Lear thought. The boss nodded to the nearest goon, and the four muscles in the room moved toward Lear on cue. Lear tried to blink his world back into focus, but everything was moving in slow motion. Keep it quiet, the boss said, his voice echoing in Lear's ears. I don't want his sister downstairs to freak out before we get to her, too. This motherfucker, Lear thought. Lear turned to face the four men. He readied his stance and tried to maintain a rhythm to his breathing. Focus your mind. Know your opponents. Lear breathed a soothing breath at the sound of his teacher's voice from deep within him. Know your opponents, Lear thought. He took a moment to name them in his head. There was Goon-Faced Goon, whose squared head, enormous jaw, and hands made him perfect for the role. Then there was Mutton Chops, for obvious reasons. And then there was the one who the girls say has a metal ring through his dick. I forgot I wrote that. Lear couldn't think of a better name for him at the moment, so Dick Ring would have to do. Then there was Grog. That wasn't anything clever. His was the only name Lear actually knew. I never forget a Grog. Goon-Faced Goon was the first to pull his knife and lunge at Lear. In one smooth motion, Lear blocked, grabbing hold of the wrist and with a firm grip as he stepped in to deliver a vicious punch to the Goon-Faced Goon's throat. Goon dropped to his knees, coughing violently, then collapsed, gasping for air as he crawled on all fours. Panic seized him when he realized, with both hands on the ground, he no longer held a knife. Lear ducked in time to avoid Mutton Chop's billy club, swinging for his head. His blurred vision created streaks in the air with each movement of his foe. From down low, Lear sent an uppercut to Dick Ring's notorious crotch. The piercing enthusiast screamed and folded in half, his hands applying pressure to his crotch. Blood soaked into the front of his pants, and he fell to the floor, screaming and writhing. Lear continued the momentum and rose, sending his right elbow back and knocking Mutton Chops in the back of the head. Mutton Chop stumbled forward, hitting himself in the mouth with his billy club. His face smacked the floor hard enough to ring through the room. Lear used the pseudo wind-up from his elbow attack to send his fist forward as hard as he could in his compromised state. He caught Grog in the nose with the luckiest punch he'd ever thrown. When Grog brought up his hands to catch the blood pouring from his nostrils, it left him defenseless. Lear pushed Grog's head to the side, exposing his neck. He pulled a sleep disc from behind his belt and placed it on Grog's artery. He fell to the floor with a thud. This will be the last paragraph. I'll finish up here. Mutton Chops was standing back up, spitting blood and shards of his teeth out onto the floor. Lear quickly grabbed Goon-Faced Goon's knife from the floor and threw it at him. It missed his wrist and stabbed his palm instead. Mutton Chop's painful scream gave Lear the time he needed to grab another sleep disc and land it on Mutton Chop's neck. The screams cut off, and Mutton Chop's face smacked the floor again, snoring almost instantly. What the fuck are those things? The boss stood behind his desk. Lear's back was turned, but he could hear the clicking of a revolver's hammer.
I'm intrigued.
Action scene. Nice choice, Maggie. She's paying me compliments. Maggie, stop. You're making me blush.
Okay, I'm going to do just a simple cat wisdom card. And then maybe someone will type in a chapter between 1 and 18 for me to read, or I'll just pick something. And those who are not a cat person, but more of a dog person, they also have dog wisdom there as well.
Cool. Dog person.
I was a dog person until I moved to rural Saskatchewan, and the house that we bought came with cats. Express yourself. That's what this little orange kitty says.
That is very good advice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I am going to do chapter 3. Ooh, interesting. If I remember correctly, chapter 3 is the second point of view characters. In book 1, I have 2 main characters. Salem, who is the main character. She's the newbie to this camp. And Boston is character, point of view character number 2. And he's been living at this camp for years. Let's see. How about I just do the last few? Yes, the last few paragraphs. Just because to make yourself different and you get to see one of the powers. Most would outgrow their fear of water. Berkeley and Risotto would have no choice but to accept the water's pull. Over the months, hand in hand, walking a few steps further every day, and now away from the safety of the shore, they would have years to adapt to their affinity of water. Even as a young boy, Boston was never nervous around water, just curious. A tug on the dock, Cruz had returned from the deep. He waved and then disappeared beneath the surface, reappearing on the other side of the dock. 8 of them. Enzo is in charge. Of course, Bergen whined. He always forgets Enzo is water. And Deshay. Bergen is earth. Bergen is such a baby, Boston laughed, but never to his face since he was a Shay, respect and all that. Shays were not only responsible for their cabin mates, but also all their elementals. So, of course, Enzo would be always responsible for the more skilled swimmers. Cruz wandered over to the furthest horizontal docks and watched those playing between the docks. A few of the smaller ones climbed on the older boy's shoulders and fell into the lake, below the surface for only a heartbeat or two, and always emerging, laughing and shouting at the others. Boston supervised 8 swimmers, or rather waders, those tethered to both the shore and the water. In time, the younger water elementals, like Morrow, even the little girls would explore the deep waters. Perhaps even some of the stronger swimmers would join Enzo and Arya, but until then, they swam in their own comfort zone. Any visitors would assume the normal late summer day at any regular camp. Some were fearless, while others merely enjoyed the sun and their freedom on the beach. Mr. Mr. Hematite and Miss Sodalite approached the beach from the direction of the gathering hall, or rather the phoenix nest. They stopped a few paces from the water's edge. Mr. Hematite whistled. The younger children playing in the water ran to the beach and gathered around Sydney, Tamarix, and Marina, whereas Boston crews alerted the swimmers on the other side of the second horizontal dock. The adults moved their arms like waves gently at first and then picking up the speed of their hand motions. Water tumbled and rolled toward the shore. The more experienced swimmers rode the waves over the docks and then partnered up with the younger ones at the beach. Waves were to be hidden under and to get lost in the sound and the mist. All elementals were balanced in shallow waters.
That's beautiful.
Some of the characters. I have a rather large cast. There's 40 kids, and they all have their own elemental power. I know their ages and all that fun stuff. Do I know what they look like? No, not necessarily, but you don't need to.
You know, I find that fascinating when authors just don't really go into what the characters look like, because based on the dialogue alone, the reader will form an image in their head of what that character looks like. Everybody's will be unique. Everybody's will be their own. It's brave. It's a brave way to do it. I like it. That last line was awesome.
Thanks. And that's the first time I've shared it on my channel of anything I've written, and I've only had, I think I had maybe 4 beta readers, maybe 5 of this book.
Okay.
And for that, no one has read it.
Well, I feel honored to have been here to hear that.
That was awesome. Very nerve-wracking when I actually sent it off to beta readers.
Oh my God.
And then the book that I'm doing now is Boutique Partners. My sister read it. My dad read the first chapter. My dad does like fantasy. And his response to my first chapter was, you should really have something in it besides just Kira just walking through her garden, picking up plants. But she was a witch, and she's collecting things for her full moon ritual, and end up having a vision and had to change all her ingredients. But I added animals, and after I fixed it up, my dad read it again and did enjoy it better.
Parents.
Yeah, parents. Okay, let's see if there's any other comments.
Well, I was just responding to Emmy North. She asked if we see images while we're writing. I responded that I try to visualize what I'm writing as I write it. It also helps to have genre appropriate music playing for me, because like a lot of it is more mood than visual. You know what I mean? So like if the mood in the air is right, the scene will kind of write itself. It's fun.
Oh, for sure. I always have to have music. When I first started writing Witches of Solace, since one of the main characters are from the Scotland, Ireland, I think it's Scotland, I decided to use some Celtic music. So I did a lot of that while listening and writing it. But now, thanks to YouTube, which I'm fairly new to, I think I've only been maybe 18 months on YouTube, because let's face it, YouTube scared me. So yeah. Then I started attending the writing streams, and I discovered, oh, wow, YouTube has music. So I listened to anything from Celtic music, the Viking music, which is so amazing. And then I also listen to like the classic rock and all that other stuff. But mostly it's all like the instrumental type. So my dad would be proud, because that's his favorite genre. And when we would go on road trips, we would listen to his music for literally all day. And would be like, Dad, could you please find a station that has words to it?
Some lyrics would be nice, Dad.
Yeah, so we'd listen to some whatever radio station that's
funny.
That we could pick up when we were traveling in the middle of nowhere.
It's funny because, I listen to pretty much all genres other than I honestly don't listen to very much country. Although if you get into like some of the bluegrassy stuff, I can get into it. But for the most part, I'll listen to anything as long as it's good. If it's not good, I'll switch off. If it's good, I'll listen. And I listen to a lot of rap. I love, rap is rhythm and poetry. The lyrics. It's all about the lyrics when you're listening to rap. But when I'm writing, I need film scores. I need, wordless, just rhythmic music, nothing to distract me word wise. Because if I'm typing and I hear a word, I'm gonna type that word. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, I have to go lyricless for that. I actually have a playlist on my channel. If you go to my channel, you click on playlists. I have a couple of different ones there. One is music to write genre to. And in there, I have different videos, one for writing sci-fi or cyberpunk, one for writing fantasy, one for writing, one is like medieval times tavern stuff. If you're writing a tavern scene,
Mm-hmm.
I've got
Those are
some,
fun.
yeah. So I've got a couple, I have some concentration music in there for those of us like me who have ADHD, who you don't necessarily need music. You just need some kind of like rhythm to keep you going, like, so there's that. This kind of like concentration music is really good. So yeah, definitely the resources are out there. You can find a few on my channel.
And I like to I visualize what I'm doing and the scenes and all that stuff. And like I said earlier, I draw maps. And I remember for this series that they're in a setting in the south of camp. And I drew the map how I thought I wanted it. And then I wrote the chapter based on the map. And then when I went in and revised it, I think it might have been the third or fourth time, because I do tend to revise often, a lot of times, that I ended up changing the map altogether because it just wasn't the map on the paper. It was in my head. And it's always fun to dream of your characters in the story and stuff that you haven't written yet. So that's always fun.
Indeed. I like that. Let's see.
We have
here.
a couple more chats, and then I'm just going to wrap it up.
Yeah, we got about
a little bit early because then we can have a little bit of a break.
Yeah,
and
lead
I
into
believe
the next
Heather's next. I don't have her link to add, but the playlist is in my description.
Cool.
Okay, let's see if there's any else to pop in. Okay, about the images. And thank you for listening to our parts of our stories.
Yeah. I don't often do readings, so that was fun. That was a lot of fun, actually. It was fun to have somebody choose a scene for me to read. I was going to read the crime scene in chapter 1, but that was better. I like that. That was a nice little bit of action there. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are new to me, the tagline, so to speak, for the book is, "Will the help of a witch and a bounty hunter be enough to catch a prolific serial killer? Or will Detective Vandersea's career end before she can close her first case?" Those are the stakes in Mythic Shadow of the Spark. Dun, dun, dun.
I am glad that Mama Maggie put in Stephanie's stream, because I wrote down that I was supposed to have Heather next. So that's good. That is really good. Okay, so
Mama Maggie's a
an
smart
outro.
lady. That's me. For me, yeah, booksbyadrian.com. Very simple. You can find everything from there. The universal book link to buy all of my things is there. I have a store there as well. You can buy directly from me. I've got merch that you can buy there. Sign up for the newsletter, though. That's the most important thing. If you do nothing else, sign up for the newsletter, because I announce everything on there. You'll get a free ebook. It's a 10,000 words short story, so it is absolutely worth your time. It's not a scene or something. You're getting a full short story, and it'll lead you into the pages of the novel. And I welcome you into my readership. More books coming this year. I'm releasing at minimum 2 by the end of this year. By December, I'll have 2 new books out. The third, which is the next full novel, will either be early next year or this year if I can make it happen. We'll see. It depends on how many words I get down.
That's amazing. And I'm Miranda, also Rita H on other people's streams. I write young adult urban fantasy because of witches and family secrets. And I normally host live sprints on Mondays and on Saturday mornings. And thank you so much for popping in. And I will see you at other people's streams throughout the day. Don't forget, have a drink, have a snack, maybe even lunch if it's around lunchtime. I know it's lunchtime for me, so my first thing will be food. Food is important.
Food.
So thanks for popping in, and I will see everybody. I believe I'm hosting again tomorrow.
I'll be hosting again on the final day on Sunday, so I'll be on camera again on Sunday.
And I'll be hosting tomorrow, but not on Wednesday. I'm taking Wednesday off, but I'll be around.
Smart.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye-bye.